All right, welcome everyone to another Cloud Foundry on Kubernetes working group forum. I will be linking the document that has all the discussion topics in the chat. If you would like to talk about something, you can either drop it in that document or you can drop it in the chat and I can add it for you. We have a few topics already, but we can always add some more, or you can add them into future topics if you'd like to discuss them another week. So with that said, let's get rolling with our first topic, which is how to proceed with pod security restricted level and kpack.
Got here just in time, sorry. Yeah, so what's the situation on this? So summarize the problem. So we were previously using pod security policies to enforce the security on our workload pods. That's been deprecated since Kubernetes 1.22, and it's going to be removed at 1.25, and 1.25 is coming in August, so the clock's ticking now. The replacement is something called pod security. PSPs work by creating a role that links to the pod security policy, and then the user that runs the pod needs to have a binding to that role. So it works at a user or a service account level. Pod security is loads better. You've got 3 standard levels of security and you set them at the namespace level. So that's privileged, baseline, or restricted. Restricted stops you becoming root, doing privilege escalations, enforces a couple of seccomp profiles, and forces you to drop all capabilities and only add one that allows you to bind to privileged ports. So it's all sensible stuff. And we want to run workload pods using the restricted policy. And we've got a problem that our kpack build pods are also created in the workload namespace. So they also have to adhere to this policy. So we've just done the work to switch to pod security. It's all fine apart from these kpack pods, and we need them to go and set security contexts on all the containers inside the pod. So yeah, we contacted kpack a couple of weeks ago, created an issue, and they seem to be up for creating pods with these security contexts set. They want to put a few little config capabilities in there so that you can specify a different level other than restricted inside the build resource, or potentially in the namespace. But it sounds like they want to do a bit of design on that and see how it's going to turn out. But as we were right at the end of a work, we've done everything apart from getting all the E's to run. We just did a little hack to see if we could write a webhook that added the security context to the kpack things. So we've just done a PR for that. There's a link there. I saw Tim, you commented and said, could we be a bit more specific on what pods we're targeting? So yeah, we could look at that. But yeah, after that, so the question is, how do people feel about that webhook? Because I know it's pretty grim, targeting core resources like pods. And what should we do with kpack? I haven't contacted them again yet because I'm not sure what we should be doing. Like, we could suggest that we could do the work and PR it and everything, but I don't know how people feel about that because, I don't know, limited resources at the moment. It's only me and Danny on this side. So we'd have to stop all the task stuff to do that. Yeah, so any thoughts on that?
I think, well, that's good context. That answers my question, I think, on my top level question on the issue. My personal opinion is, like, I feel like the webhook is a little gross, but like if we can restrict it to only the builds that like we're triggering, which I think we can. I think we put like a build GUID label on those, or even like app GUID and stuff to get logging working. Like, we could leverage some of those things for that. Then it's probably fine as a temporary thing. I think we should reach out to them about contributing it, because like, even though like on the EMEA side, you have like limited bandwidth. Like I think folks like we could just open it up to everybody like on this call, and like on the American side, like some of us could probably PR that. I think it's like fairly well understood. It's mostly just working with them to figure out what the configuration interfaces should look like, right?
Yeah.
So it might be worth just like reaching out to them again on that front, because I think they're in agreement that it should be done, but they're also in a place where they have limited bandwidth too. So I think that's the main problem we're hitting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Definitely spread the burden a bit, especially since our time zone, for those of us in the North American region, probably aligns a bit better with the kpack team. So highly appreciative of the exploratory work you've done on that, and we can definitely coordinate moving that forward so that it's not so difficult from your side, given the constraints of time zones and having limited bandwidth. So let's try to get that moving forward. Maybe open it up in Slack and in our dev channel, and then also go directly to the kpack friends and work with them. Because you're right, that's the Kubernetes versions march on, and we're getting there sooner than later. So definitely good to work on.
Cool. So, and that PR is probably okay to go if we address the label thing.
I'll need to look through it as well, just to have context, but it sounds like we're on the right path. So just tidy up any comments and make sure everyone's cool, and then we'll go from there. Yeah,
we won't get a chance to change it till tomorrow, but okay, cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. If there are no more comments on that, we have some website changes were proposed. I think Ron says he'll follow up on them. Thanks for keeping an eye out for content. Anything to add on there, Ron, or is it mostly just a signpost there? Ron might be away.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I mean, thanks for keeping an eye out. That's like a big thing. I was aware of the upcoming HNC changes. I just wasn't very sure about what you were changing to. The PR, I think, hasn't been merged yet. So I'll speak to like the folks that take care of our website and have that live and updated before the end of the week. I think there's some automation that should just kick in and help us cover the release part of it. But I have to make sure though. But yeah, I'll do that. But in case there's other things that folks want to include or change, or just feel free to, I guess, open more PRs, and we can find the best way to orchestrate the changes into the live thing. So yeah, that's what I had.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, sorry, I think I stepped on someone's toes. Go ahead. Oh. Okay. For context, some of those changes that we have going through into the documentation website are the big removal of HNC, which was a big effort to sort of streamline our process and remove some dependencies we had. So that was sort of the impetus for that. So moving on to the next topic, we have when should we do a 0.2? And this also calls out the few big changes like the HNC removal. Tim, any more comments?
No more comments. It was just like throwing it out there.
Cool. Yeah, it's always hard to determine what point is the right point for a release. And I don't think I have a straightforward answer for you right now. If someone has a, very clear mark to put forth as a suggestion, please let me know. Probably should do it sooner than later, but we probably need to tie up a few loose ends. it's probably an ongoing discussion that we'd probably have in the Korifi dev channel. But if anyone has thoughts, please speak up.
I mean, it should just be a case of, you know, CI is green, we can cut it whenever we like. I mean, it's the HNC thing's a good reason to do it. We've covered that edge case with deletion now as well. So I wouldn't see any reason not to press the button now, apart from Georgi and Giuseppe not being around at the moment.
It's true.
When are they back?
Georgi's back next week and Giuseppe the week after that, I think.
Okay, so if we don't feel we should release before then maybe when all our friends are back, we can release it so that everyone can see it go out the door.
Yeah, like I don't think there's like a big rush or anything. It's more just a question because like, yeah, my understanding was what Kieran just said, which is like we've got the automation there and it's just we just pick a date and make sure we don't break it on that day when we cut it.
Cool.
Well, it's tied to the pipeline as well now, so we can cut it from the last green as well. Well, you can only cut it from a green one.
Good. I like the idea of only being able to cut a at least somewhat assuredly working release. Cool. All right, we'll keep monitoring that, and when the right time occurs, we'll just go for it. So moving on to another one from Tim is a proposal for initial labels and annotations track.
Yeah. So this has come up recently as we've had like more people try out Korifi and stuff. So Cloud Foundry already supports this concept of labels and annotations on most of the endpoints, which is conveniently the same as the Kubernetes concept. So this is a proposal about like a track of work to start allowing people to actually set those on the core like CF custom resources so that they can like show up in various GUIs or things that require like a label selector to be able to grab something. The other thing about this is like, as we were thinking more about it, we're thinking like annotations could also be like a better like front door for like enabling some experimental features or like additional config properties on our things. So like an example is the CPU requests and stuff we were talking about a few weeks ago. Like there's no way to set that through the CF APIs, but we could, because the CLI lets you set labels and annotations on things, we could let people like set like a CPU request annotation on the process and then like we use that or something. So this is just a proposal. Like I want to start getting feedback on it because it should be a fairly like low scope track of work. It's basically just supporting some additional patch endpoints that the CF API already supports, but it is like fairly widespread. So like every resource supports this thing. So if anyone wants to look at this, that would be nice.
Cool, sounds good. If it has not already been linked in the Korifi dev channel, I would say drop it in there to solicit feedback. Take a look at it later, probably after this meeting. So thanks for putting that out there. All right. Moving along. I want to start talking with the App Runtime Interfaces working group about some changes we need for this, which is a draft PR to support instance ID.
Not PR.
And creating.
Sorry, I got my terms wrong. It's a draft proposal. So like we started talking about this like previous working group meeting, maybe 2 away, about like what would it take to stop using stateful sets. So I went through some of the work you Irene folks had done like a year or 2 ago about what this would look like in CF for K8s. It's actually a lot simpler now than it was back then because like we no longer have to worry about Loggergator, like CF metrics, like the Diego protobuf compatibility, stuff like that. We mostly have to just worry about the CFCLI being able to display like, or let people choose like processes with a like integer index based identifier. So this is like a draft proposal, just like talking about the current state of things and like how we could leverage the Diego LRP instance GUID as an alternative identifier, and the changes we'd have to make to Cloud Controller and the CLI to support that. And then once those things can support that, then it would be a lot simpler for Korifi to like allow people to opt in to like alternative like deployment strategies, like deployments. And maybe they could use an annotation or something to do that. That's a side question. So this one's a draft, but I know like a lot of folks here have historical context on it, so it'd be nice to get opinions on it and stuff, because we'll need to get buy-in from people in the App Runtime Interfaces working group to be able to like either get them to make these changes or like contribute them ourselves. So just wanted to get this one out there sooner than later. And like Birdrock said, I'll drop links to these on Slack too later.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks so much for putting that all together. Definitely want to move towards a world where we can have a more flexible interface where we can plug various bits in as we see fit. So definitely worth working with them. All right. So we have another topic for a Kubernetes version support policy that someone asked on Slack.
This the question asking basically what version of Kubernetes do we support? I don't remember discussing that. I can't even imagine how we can support incompatible Kubernetes versions as well, but that's probably another story. But maybe we should have an agreement how old Kubernetes we want to support.
Yeah, I don't think we've really discussed this. I think the running assumption was just whatever the current supported main version is kind of what we're operating on. Definitely don't want to be in the business of trying to run on end of life versions. But I think probably a couple version spread is a good target. So maybe like the newest stable and then one back from there is probably a good starting point. But I'm happy to talk about
this question on Slack says that K8s supports 122.9, which I think previous is 123, which means that this is even older. So does that mean that we would not be able to run flawlessly on EKS? And
yeah,
I guess it's kind of a question for the open source of what does support mean? Like if we're not testing it, I'm not sure what support means. So like we know what version we test and we could say our test pass, but they're not buying support from us. So what is support, right? Support maybe means like, we're not going to close your issue out of hand when you raise it. But I think basically we shouldn't really be claiming stuff works that we're not testing.
And follow on to that, I don't think we have the bandwidth or necessarily like the funds to do fan out testing for every version of Kubernetes either. Like I feel like my like personal answer to this question would be like we soften the language. We aim to work on like any like the current non-end of life, like Kubernetes supports like the current and the past two versions, which is like less than a year's worth, to be honest. So I don't think it's too bad. Like we could aim to like not break on those, but like Julian said, we can't test them, every permutation of them.
They're slightly out of sync with the hosted solutions as well. If you go for a stable GKE, you get 121, which is not supported. And I think we've only just been able to get a 124 via GKE in the rapid channel. So they lag behind a fair bit. Yeah, in terms of what we're doing with kind testing on 123 and GKE testing on 122. In Arini, we used to, we did fan out and try the 3 different channels in GKE, but then that's just an expensive thing to be doing.
Yeah, I wonder, is there any way for us to put that version somewhere where it ends up in the README or something, but the versions that we're currently testing into the README? I don't know, that might be a
Maybe
Friday.
release notes, like
Yeah.
this release has been tested on that release.
Yeah, do no guarantees, but just saying, hey, we tested on these. This is what we found. That way we leave ourselves a little bit of maneuvering space.
And we have
We had some precedent or policy on what Kubernetes versions we were deliberately and coincidentally testing against with CFRoles. Might have to look it up. Burdock, I don't know if you remember what that was.
I don't recall. I can look back in our CI and try to figure out what that spread is.
Yeah, we might have said something in the CFRoles repo as well about what our intent was, at least.
Yeah. So we can definitely try to dig that up and see if we can mirror that. But I do like the idea of, especially at this point, not guaranteeing compatibility with versions and just saying we've tested on these. That way, if the Kubernetes community makes changes that are significant that break things like the pod security policies and stuff like that, then we have a little bit of room to say, hey, we'd like to support this, but it doesn't work for various reasons.
Right, and like we can welcome issues for previous non-end of life versions and fix them. It's just like we can't test them all type of thing.
Yep. Cool. Yeah, great question. Thanks for bringing that up. That'll bear some more digging and discussion. I'll see what I can find, and if I find anything interesting in CFRoles that's concrete, I will drop it in Slack to sort of further that discussion.
There is a supported K8s versions.yaml file in there. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I believe that hasn't been updated for a little bit, so take it with a little bit of grain of salt. Cool. All right, unless there are further comments on this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, gone. We have another entry, which is a draft proposal for CFRoles. Julian?
Yeah, I was hoping to have this a little bit more evolved before this meeting, but so it's still pretty lacking in the actual proposal part of the proposal. But I should have more details in there in the next couple of days. But basically, the idea is just making either a custom resource or a property on orgs and spaces to have an abstraction for Cloud Foundry role membership in order to kind of solve some of the ugliness we have with managing the Kubernetes role bindings. So anyway, you feel free to take a look now, but you'll probably be more satisfied if you take a look in a couple of days.
Cool. All right, I'll keep an eye out for that, and sort of try to offer some feedback to help along with that. So awesome.
Yeah, feel free to anybody to pipe up, even though it's not done yet.
I think we might need to have comment level access on the doc.
Ah, yes. Well, that would be a good thing to do. All right, let me see.
I wonder if Google changed some defaults globally, because I've been noticing more and more cases where The default seems to be viewer, and then people can't do anything.
Oh, no, I mean, it is the default, but I also just did it and I didn't do a very good job. Okay, you should have comment level access now.
Cool. Let's check that real quickly.
I can see all sorts of anonymous whoever's
Cool.
popping in.
Looks good. Alrighty. It looks like we are at the end of our list of topics. If there's anything you'd like to sneak in at the end here or bring up that we want to discuss next week at our next bi-weekly meeting, please do so. Otherwise, I'll let you all go back to whatever you plan on doing, depending on where you are on the globe or what your schedule is. Thanks so much for attending. Great discussion, and I'm really excited to see how this works out.
One last thing. I think we have an outstanding PR for the Korifi website to remove mention of HNC.
Yes. Ram is going to be looking at that and working on trying to get that merged and then finding out all the machinery that goes into deploying that to the website. So definitely we should do that. I think it's being tracked. Thanks for the reminder. I'm going to let Ram speak since I saw the microphone mute go off.
Yeah, Julian, that's on me. I'll follow up on that and keep folks updated on Slack about what happens.
Right. Yeah, I think the changes are pretty trivial, but you know, from the looks of it, but great. Thanks for looking at that.
Yeah, it is a trivial change. I think the big thing for me is it's the first change, and so nobody really knows how that works. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've been a little unclear about, like, you know, if this gets merged, how does that relate in this getting published? But I thought there was some discussion of GitHub Actions or something on the PR.
Yep, cool, awesome. Thank you for following up on that, Julian and Ron. We'll figure it out. It's always interesting to see with a new process how things work out. Yeah. So thanks everyone for coming, offering your thoughts. Great discussion as usual. And I look forward to seeing you all again in about 2 weeks. So I'll catch you all later.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.